Good morning. Is everyone here?
Yes. Are you?
I will be. We discovered, I think late last night, that Brown Paper Tickets defaults to a Google Maps that is somewhere that's not here. So we were so organized. I'm lucky, I'm glad that you all found your way. We might have a few stragglers who were out somewhere near Marshall. So good morning and welcome to our first Saturday presentation of Voices of Arrow Rock, the Heartbeat of Women. The Friends of Arrow Rock would like to thank our hosts here at Oak Grove Plantation, Blaine and Stephanie McBurney, for their generosity in inviting us to this very special place. I'd also like to thank Ken Martinez and the Arrow Rock Coffee Company for providing our refreshments this morning. For our next first Saturday presentation on November 5th at 10, we'll be back in the stateside. Sorry, Cindy. We'll have author and the executive director of the State Historical Society of Missouri, Gary Kramer, reflecting on how the forces of history, time, place, race, gender, religion, and class shaped the state of Missouri, in a lecture based upon the themes and content of his most recent book, This Place of Promise, a historian's perspective on 200 years of Missouri history. So that's our next first Saturday. Today is the third installment of our ongoing series, Voices of Arrow Rock. Our fourth installment is already planned for May, Saturday, May 6th, at the historic Bingham House in Arrow Rock Village. And the subject of that will be county election. In the summer of 1976, during the United States Bicentennial, Helen McDaniel introduced a young Mike Kateman to a new way of looking at George Caleb Bingham's painting, County Election. As they chat about ancestors of local residents who might be depicted in the painting, Helen's answer to one of Mike's questions forever changes his perspective. And based on their discussion, we meet one of the characters in the Bingham painting. For now, I'd like to thank you all again for coming and introduce the creative force and the passion behind our remarkable Voices of Arrow Rock series, Mike Kateman.
Thanks, Jeff, and thank you all for coming. It's a beautiful morning to be here, and I really appreciate your support. Using art to explore history, the Voices of Arrow Rock Readers Theater series really brings to life forgotten and underrepresented voices here in the community. It looks at their times and their spirits. These voices span the centuries from the very moment Arrow Rock was first mapped by French explorers back in the early 18th century. And as the creator and producer for the series, I'm really thankful to the Friends of Arrow Rock who've been so gracious to sponsor this program, but also to the Lyceum Theater, who's been a very important partner in the process with that. I do hope you enjoyed all the coffee and the treats from my good friend Ken's Coffee House in Arrow Rock. Stop by and see him on Main Street and the historic Miller Bradford House. And also, thank you to the generous donors who have made this possible. Without your philanthropic support, we wouldn't be having it. We'd obviously welcome your continuing support, and any new supporters would be very welcome to the project as well. And Dr. Blaine McBurney and his lovely wife, Stephanie, thank you for opening up your home to us this morning. They also provided a wonderful dinner for the cast last night. But even more importantly, thank you for letting us explore your family history, because it's so important to the area. And you have allowed us to tell the entire story. And for that, we're very grateful. For those of you who would enjoy touring the house afterward, Blaine has graciously agreed to give tours. If you'll just meet him at the front door after the performance, you'll have that opportunity to see the home that he has so lovingly restored. I'm 59 years old.
Oh.
And so is my lifelong friend, Mindy Seitz Doak. Actually, we're only about a week apart in age, and we grew up on farms just outside of Arrow Rock. We were really close friends all through elementary school. We were Blackwater Bulldogs. And then she went off to become a Boonville Pirate, and I became a Marshall Owl. But we reunited and reconnected at Mizzou when she pledged the Chi Omega sorority, and I pledged Beta Sigma Psi fraternity. And at some point in our undergraduate years, hey, welcome, come on up. We have a few seats scattered here, so make yourself at home and grab some coffee. So at some point in our undergraduate years, the Chi Omegas invited the Beta Sigs for a dinner exchange. And that's where Mindy introduced me to her house mother as one of her oldest friends. And the house mom sort of laughed and said, well, you don't look all that old to me. And we chuckled, and then I asked the house mother, oh, were you a Chi Omega because you're wearing a pin like Mindy? Oh my goodness, she stepped back and she threw her arms across her chest and she said, I am a Chi Omega. Well, Mindy and I kind of chuckled about her response, but it was very clear to me at that point that Chi Omegas were very serious about their organization, and their commitment to it was lifelong. So fast forward to around 2013, when Mindy and a few other Chi Omegas that I know posted a link to Southern Living magazine on Facebook. The article they were so proud of and promoting through their social media was titled, The Most Beautiful Sorority Houses of the South. And Chi Omega at the University of Missouri was named one of the most beautiful sorority houses of the South. This article gave me real cognitive dissonance because up to that point in my life, I never really considered Missouri to be a southern state. We are a border state. But after reading that article and thinking about the fact that Mizzou had just joined the Southeastern Conference, and remembering much of my childhood in Arrow Rock, I had to concede that I guess Missouri really is a southern state. Mindy and I were raised here in the heart of Little Dixie, with Arrow Rock as a key economic engine for the area during the antebellum period. Now, Little Dixie is defined as those counties adjacent to what is now the I-70 corridor from Kansas City to St. Louis and then north to Hannibal. Missouri is southern. However, Missouri has a very complicated and conflicted relationship with Southern ideology by the very nature of it being a border state. Missouri was admitted to the Union on August 10, 1821, based on the Missouri Compromise. It provided for the admission of Maine as a free soil state along with Missouri as a slave state to maintain the balance of power between the North and the South. Additionally, as a part of the compromise, slavery was prohibited north of the 36-degree 30-minute parallel, excluding Missouri. And then in 1846, Dred Scott, an enslaved man from Missouri, sued his owner, Irene Emerson, for his freedom in the St. Louis Circuit Court. Scott's case was based on a Missouri precedent that dated back to 1824, upholding the once free, always free doctrine, where slaves who were emancipated through prolonged residence in either a free state or a free territory could remain free once they returned to Missouri. So Scott and his wife Harriet lived for 2 years in the free state of Illinois and then also in the Wisconsin territory, which was a free soil based on the Missouri Compromise. But after a series of trials in Missouri that resulted in varying decisions, in 1857, the United States Supreme Court ruled 7-2 that Scott, a slave from Missouri, was not a Missouri citizen, and therefore he couldn't sue for his freedom in federal court. Chief Justice Robert B. Taney delivered the decision against Scott, stating that the Missouri Compromise was beyond the power of Congress and it was unconstitutional. And additionally, he stated that free states and territories had no authority to emancipate slaves, as it would be a violation of slave owners' property rights. This outraged abolitionists, and it drove the nation closer to war against itself. Here in the Little Dixie region, the culture, the politics, and the architecture were all Southern in character. Antebellum, rural Missouri was a pre-industrial society centered on individual households. The household was not just a place to live, but it was a location for every aspect of life in the South, from politics to economic production to physical reproduction. And in the decade preceding the Civil War, the Oak Grove plantation is the quintessential example of a successful Southern-style plantation operated largely by slaves. Oak Grove was one of the top 4 producers of hemp here in Saline County. Other cash crops and livestock flourished here as well. In 1860, the plantation consisted of 480 improved and 160 unimproved acres. George A. Murrell, the owner of Oak Grove, opposed secession, but did own slaves who provided the intense labor needed for raising the cash crops and tending the livestock. Now, following the Confederate attack on Fort Sumter in April of 1861, Missouri Governor Claiborne Fox Jackson, who's buried a few miles east of here in the Sappington Cemetery, refused President Lincoln's call for volunteers and maneuvered to take the state out of the Union. He was removed from office by the Unionist majority in the state legislature for planning secession. And the resulting friction between state and federal militias vying for control of the St. Louis Arsenal led to the Camp Jackson affair and the creation of the pro-secession Missouri State Guard. Jonathan Orville Shelby formed the Lafayette County Mounted Rifles for the Missouri State Guard service, and he was elected the company's captain. And Lafayette County is just right over there. He led battles at Carthage, Wilson's Creek, and Pea Ridge, and then in 1862, he was promoted to colonel and authorized to recruit a Confederate cavalry regiment returning to Lafayette County to do so and to form that group. After successfully bringing the regiment safely back from an Arkansas adventure, he was given command of the brigade of newly recruited regiments. And then, in the fall of 1863, Shelby led the brigade of Missouri volunteers on what was at the time the longest cavalry raid of the war. It was called Shelby's Raid. So between September 22nd and November 3rd of 1863, Shelby's brigade traveled 1,500 miles through Missouri, inflicting over 1,000 casualties in Union forces and capturing or destroying an estimated $2 million worth of federal supplies and property. He was then promoted to brigadier general on December 15, 1863, following the successful conclusion of his raid. The October 12, 1863 skirmish here at Oak Grove was a part of Shelby's raid. Surprisingly, it was fought in a more traditional manner of warfare and not guerrilla warfare, which was quite widespread among the border states. And actually, of all the regions which employed guerrilla warfare during the Civil War, and that included Arkansas and Kansas and Tennessee and western parts of Virginia, Missouri produced the longest-lived and the most destructive guerrilla war in the Civil War. Some scholars assert that if the South collectively had fought like Missouri did, the South would have won the war. Episode 3 of Voices of Arrow Rock is titled The Heartbeat of Women. Playwrights Mary Barile and Sheri Purpose Hall bring to life 3 women who are connected to each other through a physical space that they share and they occupy, the Oak Grove Plantation. The story is centered not only on this physical space, but the moments following that Civil War skirmish in this physical space. As our director, Chioma Anyanwu, who's here with us this morning, has pointed out, Oak Grove represents to each of these women a challenge of preservation. For Bette, it's the preservation of the family ownership of this space. For Sophia, it's the preservation of a family lifestyle she holds so dear amidst a crisis. And for Mary, it's preservation of self and her preservation of the hope for freedom. So join us now as we transcend time to hear these voices from the 19th and 20th century women. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, the heartbeat of women.
Dear Blaine, I hope all is well in Rhode Island at that school you insisted on attending. I have not heard from you in the past week. When you were growing up, I had hoped to instill in you respect for the important things in life, such as family, and more specifically, your grandmother. However, seeing as I have failed miserably, I will continue to remind you of your responsibilities. It is the least I can do, and I do it with vigor, lest you hope I am disinterested in your future, which I am most assuredly not. As your grandfather requested before he passed away, I have been giving much thought to preserving the Murrell properties for the future. Your father's side was the largest landowner in the county, going back a century. I see no reason to change what has worked. The land will be divided as necessary among lessees and continue to be rented. Then, there is also Oak Grove. Once the family called it a plantation. Call it what you will, it has not had a Murrell living there since the 1920s. But your grandfather refused to sell the land and leased it successfully for 50 years. It is not my home and never will be. I have no intention of beating back dust and bugs myself, nor breaking the Murrell's absence. I prefer electricity that works and the comfort of neighbors who like a cocktail. But since the house still stands, and if it is to be preserved, there is much to do. There are hogs in the fields and cattle. I detest livestock. The steps are rotten. If there was a walkway, it is somewhere beneath what I loosely call the lawn. The floors need repair. There is an ancient heating system, and the fireplaces do not work. The last I was told, bats had taken roost. I detest bats. The wall coverings are peeling. The place is as dark as a tomb, and the garden is as dead as a doornail. It is, in fact, falling apart. So, I'm leaving it to you. You may thank me, Blaine, when you are home this summer. I am told that the house is Greek Revival in style and the largest frame house of its type in the state. The barns are fallen in. Once there was a summer kitchen somewhere near the old well. Oh, and of course, in addition to the house itself and the land, there are the graves. I don't have to remind you of the war fought by your forebears. I believe that General Shelby's troops were marching north to Marshall when the Federals caught up over near the creek on the property. Each side lost a man, and this house was right in the middle of that bloodshed. It was a tragedy. 2 men died here and are buried on the grounds. They are somewhere out in the fields, but I've never been to the graves. No sense in wallowing in loss or the past, but perhaps you should have them marked. I have often thought of the women who survived that night. What would I have done? Run to the woods? Hidden in the cellar? I would like to believe I had backbone enough and spirit enough to do something, but the house means nothing to me, and the people were strangers, and so I don't know. It was your great-great-grandfather's first wife, Sophia, and Mary, a house servant. They were there when it began, with the fields hands and servants. Trust the men to be out visiting when a battle begins. I am certain of one thing, though. Sophia and Mary, they must have remembered every moment of that night forever.
What is that thumping? Tom? You, Tom. Oh, thank heavens. It's only you. Are you finished? Scrubbed clean? It must be spotless. It's getting dark and I'll need to check the horses. This has been very hard on the horses. Dear Lord, let this evening be silent. I do not expect any rest, but for some quiet. I confess last night I took a drop of brandy. It was that or weakness, and I'll have none of that here. After 50 years, where is the quiet? My family, the McMahons, came to the Boonslick in 1812. Our farm is older than the state. We suffered storms, green flies, Indians, paid by the English they were to murder settlers. Uncle Samuel was ambushed, killed by those devils. They brought him back to be buried with his body thrown over a horse and his head in a sack. But we stayed. We farmed, we bought servants, we bent this land to our needs, and we prospered. Mr. Murrell, my husband, he believes in the South, but not in secession. I believe we should be left alone to live the way we wish, and if that means a new country, then God wills it. So, when he asked me to marry him, I told Mr. Murrell, "Sir, I will be your wife, but do not expect me to be silent about matters of politics. I'm a Southern wife and daughter, and I will not be silent." But then the war came, and now silence may be the only thing between my husband and a rope. I trust few, and I do not trust the dark at all. Mr. Murrell's just gone to the neighbors. Their house is still standing, a miracle after yesterday. One of their boys is with Quantrill and his troops. Near broke his mother's heart to see her boy ride off, but there was no talking him out of it. Said the Union would destroy everyone and everything we love. God keep those brave boys and provide for them this winter. I know we shall give whatever we can if there's anything left to give. Shh. Just branches on the windows. I hate that sound, the wind and the trees, especially now, especially at night, like wolves watching in the shadows. I remember before all this, before this war, I loved the night, the sky a dark quilt, stars above. Mother told me they were sheep going home to the heavenly fold, but sometimes one star would scamper away and fall from the sky, and then I would make a wish. I always wished that I could fly so I could touch the moon and then come back to earth and run home. Silly, girlish dreams. There's not time for silliness now, or for dreams. Now the sky is the same, but not the night. So cold. I hate the dark, and I hate the wind, and above all, I hate the Federals. Let me tell you, every time a stranger rides by, we hold our breath and pray they will not stop. Last spring, a group of men rode up to ask for food. They were wearing Union shirts, but one of them took me aside and told me how he was raised near Sedalia, and he was a Southern man through and through, and they had killed enough Federals so they could ride in safety with the uniforms. I gave them what we could spare and hoped he had not lied to me. I could have been shot for aiding the enemy. One evening, I caught 3 Federals raiding the hog pen. Well, I called them Federals, but they were deserters, plain and simple. I went out with a pistol and told them if they wanted to see their mothers again, that they better get on their horses before I set the bushwhackers on them. They laughed and made to grab me, till I nearly took the foot off one of them. Backed them up quick. Those fiends flew out of here, and I set the servants on patrol near the barn. Wouldn't put it past those Federals to burn it down out of plain meanness. I fear the world is ending. One of our servants ran off. Told his wife he heard they were free and he would take his chances with the Federals. More likely he'll starve or be shot. Mr. Murrell is firm, but we take care of our people. They are safe here. I don't know or understand what Lincoln believes, but he never lived here. Has no idea about our people, never will. My brother, Robert, rode up 2 days ago. Oh, the days tumble together anymore. No, it was only yesterday. Raining, and the Missouri mud, oh, that mud. He said Boonville was all a dither. Half of the town's brave, the other half of Federals. Colonel Shelby, Southern gentleman, was marching north to Marshall. Robert rode with them, guided them on the road, told me our boys were spoiling for a fight. After he rode on, I took up my sewing. It was coming on dusk. And then just beneath the wind and the rain, I heard them. Bang, bang, bang! Guns and the shouting. Godfrey and Hiram came running in from the field. They's coming, missus. Who's coming, you old fools? Don't know, but they's coming this way from Boonville. Rifles near the river. Dear God, the Federals, they will strip this house clean. You there, bundle up the silver and toss it in the well. Tie it to the rope, good and tight, or there'll be the devil getting it out again. Who will handle the horses? You? Take this man here, get out to the barn. No telling whether those damn soldiers will torch it. Get Twilight and Colonel Boone and bring them into the parlor. Yes, the parlor and the dining room. Try to keep them off the floors. I don't know. I know horses don't like steps, but get them in here and shut the door. Run, now run! Here, Godfrey, let the hogs and chickens out. Get the cows to the upper meadow. That's fenced and the brush will hide them. You stay there, too. Those devils will take anything as contraband, including you. Wait, take the boys, too. Safer to just have the women here. I've got Mr. Murrell's pistol. Mary, lock the doors and get upstairs. Despite the fire and the hearth, I was shaking cold, I will tell you. Then shouting, and I saw horses, not the militia, our boys. Shelby was here. It seemed forever as the men moved through. Thump, thump, thump. There wasn't any marching about it, just a dull thump that went right through the floor. I swear I could feel each step from each man. Oh, they looked so tired and miserable in the rain. A few pulled a big gun into our meadow. Then, boom, Mr. Murrell built these walls strong. But cannon? Good Lord, I saw the shapes through the curtains. Men stopping and turning, firing and moving. Bang, bang. Please, I prayed, let the boys reach Marshall. Then another boom. Artillery shell. A man staggered, his arm. The others held him up and kept running, dragging him along the road just out there. One boy, he just fell like he was poleaxed. A soldier bent over him, stood up and moved on, and the men were running and touching their caps in respect, but not stopping. The rifle fire flared above the rain like rockets, and our men were gone, shadows in the rain. I started to sit down and catch my breath when there was a light and smoke, and I thought the room would cave in with the sound. Our men had sent a message back to the Federals. The cannon did its work, shouting and a scream. Dear Lord, let me forget the sounds. They brought him in here, a Federal soldier without a leg. Now, I've seen much in my life, but not a man shattered. Quick, get some linen, tear it up, tie it round there, dear God, tie it there, where his leg was, above the knee. Hurry, the horses hate the smell of blood, hurry! Mary has finished scrubbing. I do not believe I shall ever love this house again. We buried the men this morning, our boy on this side of the Salt Fork and the Federal on the other bank. They could not stand together in life, and so they will not rest together in death. I am so weary. Now, I need to see to the horses, and oh, how dark it is.
Lord, I listened to her already, doing her nightly prayer to you. Oh Lord, do strengthen me in the darkness of this awful night. Protect me from thine enemies. Do keep me safe. Oh Lord, I took a drop of brandy. I knows how many drops is in a drop, about enough to make you drop. Guess I ought to be asking forgiveness too. Each time I pour her a drop, I pour me a drop too. Lord, why are they so prim and proper when they talk to you? It's like they want to be all buttoned up, like you can't see the dirt side of their collar that way. Oh Lord, please forgive me. I'm sorry, Lord. I'm tickled. Now, you know me. I done prayed for her soul and the souls of everybody here, but Lord, she got me this time. I guess I gotta share this with you since I ain't got my old man to talk to no more. Well, I know I ask this every time we speak, and I know I ain't supposed to question like I do, but why'd you see fit to take the one thing that called me his? The one person I wanted to belong to because we belong. He, the first man, took a real liking to me. If I looked like Miss Sophia, my cheeks be all red like those berries she liked. But I belong to him and you. You done made me belong to these people all my life. They got papers on me, written I am owned by. There's a deed on my name like a house. But when you give me a husband, it made me feel real woman-like the first time. He treat me real nice. These folks ain't never made me feel nothing more than work a mule, sun up to sundown, do this, do that, there, toil. He make me feel soft, stroke my hair, make me feel womanly, loved, alive, free. Free with him anyway. I miss him. He was a kind, gentle sort. Gentle to me. Made me feel like maybe one day I could sound like a lady. Like Mrs. Sophia. If I sounded like that, would you listen? If I sound speckable, oh Lord. Bring my husband back. Since you took him, I'm going to keep talking to you. I know how you menfolk don't like a woman blubbering, but you all I got. You did this to yourself, God. I mean, why'd you take him with you and just leave his body here? Here on this farm, cold in the dirt. I just want him back. Breath in his body to hold him, feel his arms round me, I suppose. I don't really want him back here. Not like this. They say those that's with you is free and they just sleep. If there's anything that man's earned, it's freedom and rest. I don't want to sound selfish, but I want to be free with him. Raise our babies free. To have babies. All our own. Never to be sold. We used to pray to be free together. That wasn't too much to ask, was it? Like, do you hear me? Did we not say it right? Him dying by the hand of another man looked just like him. That ain't right. It's a curse. I could excuse them. This is what they do. They kill us. But by someone looks like me, looks like him, I don't understand. I don't understand at all. Not at all. And they ain't gonna do nothing. I overheard Mr. say, well, one killed one. I would kill him, but then I'd be down 4 hands instead of 2. You mean to tell me the only reason my man's killer won't get more than a few lashes is 'cause of money? That's all my husband's worth. I'm going to have to work here and sit up in his face for the rest of my days. And that man going to be walking over his grave. Ain't fair. No, it ain't fair.
Mary?
I heard her when she say, check the horses. Now, we know she mean me, check the horses. Maybe I'll let Godfrey do it. I never get time to talk to you like I should. And when I do...
Mary!
Lord, why she call so much? If I had the right mind, I think her everything been broke whole life. She just always a caller. She's so loud. But still a lady. Strange. She's so full of fight about everything other than the way I have to be living as her servant. The things she owns, like these horses she done asked me to check on.
Mary! Come hide everything quickly. The Fiddlers are coming.
Yes, Miss Sophia. Let's see. I wrap up all the china, pull the pictures off the walls, hide them in the crawler under the stairs, the Mrs. Jewelry boxes in the bureau in the dining room. I can put that down there too. Who's Oh, Lord, it's really happening. Oh, Lord, they could kill her. Then what'll I do? I don't want to fall into the wrong hands, or maybe they're the right hands. I don't trust none of them. They say they mean to free people, but all they always saying something, meaning something else. Even Mrs. Sophia. Who are these folks? They're shapes of men, but it's too dark to make any of them out. I wonder if this is what my husband felt before he died.
Mary, lock the doors and get upstairs.
Yes, Why is she sending me upstairs? I should be down here helping. Maybe I'm all she got left. Even with all these things, maybe she ain't got nobody but me either. If that's the case, she need to be coming up here too. Oh, Lord, come away from the door. Don't open the door. Stay away. Lord, she done open the door. This lady dim. I know it. All that proper and not a lick of wit to her. Jesus, save her from herself.
Mary, come take care of these men.
My Lord! Blood! No leg! Where is his leg? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, ma'am. Yes, I'll take care of him. Lord, don't let me die here. Not like this. Not tonight. I want to see my husband again, but not tonight. Not like this.
Well, Blaine, I hope now you have a better understanding of what you will inherit. As with any house, the stories are happy and sad, hurtful and healing. They may have left their marks on the house, I don't know. But time has certainly changed Oak Grove. Time has changed us all. So, I close now as I am meeting friends for dinner in town. Despite your misgivings, I believe you will love the house in the end. And if you are very fortunate, perhaps I will come and live with you. Much love, Betty Murrell, your grandmother.